Ryan, how difficult of a decision is this #1 overall pick going to be for your organization?
It is difficult, and I think people are jumping to conclusions as far as, there's only 1 or 2 guys maybe in the mix for us. They're more than that, Woj. They're a handful of guys. We met with Marvin Bagley this week here in Chicago, who, as you know, is a Phoenician. He's a local kid, like Deandre Ayton. Luka Doncic is obviously playing right now in the EuroLeague Final Four. He has strong ties to our head coach and is one of the top young European players I've ever seen and I've ever scouted. And then there are guys like Mohamed Bamba and Michael Porter Jr. who have some unique high-level NBA skills, and we're considered some of the top high school players in their draft class. So we're going to spend as much time as possible with those group of players, and it's not limited to those 5 or so guys. But, we have a lead pack at the moment, but it's not an open and shut case for us.
Ryan, your mentor, Danny Ainge, who you came up with in pro basketball with the Celtics, had the #1 pick last year, and I think legitimately identified Jason Tatum as his top player. He knew he could get him at 3. He moves down, gets another pick. Can you imagine a scenario where you may not be in line with the teams at 2 and 3, and you move back?
We're certainly open to that. We'll consider it. I think, obviously we'll have more information closer to the draft than we do today after we go through the workout process and the interview process and get the medical physicals. So we're open to that. I think if you look around the NBA as far as the veteran players, there are probably a few players we consider trading the pick for outright, just pick for player #1. So it'll be a busy month for us. I've been in the league 15 or 16 years now. I've never been with a franchise that's had the #1 pick. So it's a big responsibility, but especially in this draft with the talent at the top, one we look forward to, and it's going to be an exciting month in Phoenix.
Ryan, you also have the 16th pick in the draft that you acquired from Miami. What's the philosophy when you get into the teams there as far as best available, or do you go more need? I know there's a little bit of a hole at point guard, but if there's a point guard there that maybe is not the best available, does that change your mind, or you just take the best available player?
Yeah, I think a lot of what we do at 16, Bobby, will be predicated with what we do at #1, and it wouldn't make sense to draft guys at the same position or similar positions probably at 1 and 16. So if we go, with a big at 1, it's probably a perimeter player at 16, or vice versa. Another option I think we may have available, given the number of assets we've accumulated, given the additional first-round picks we have coming from Milwaukee and Miami, and the 31st pick, the first pick in the second round, we'll look at packaging to move up potentially as well if there's a player, somewhere in the mid to late lottery, say, that we like. We've done that in the past. We did it a few years ago for Marquise Chris, and we're certainly open to those scenarios as well.
I mean, you've talked pretty openly about wanting to get your team older, maybe get some more veteran talent in, whether that's through trade, free agency. Is your thought here in having that #1 pick, if you don't move it, to sort of use whatever else you have on your roster to try to move as close to a playoff team or as close to some kind of contention in the West?
Yeah, that's something we're going to look at, Woj. And, it's been a painful 3 years in Phoenix as far as the rebuilding window. It was targeted. It was strategic to do it for 3 years. We've studied the league. We've studied other professional sports leagues in terms of how teams have rebuilt and what's the appropriate amount of time. I think if you don't do it for, that amount of time, it's hard to accumulate enough young talent maybe to build and grow for a sustainable period of time. If you rebuild for longer than 3 years, then the losing, I think, hurts your culture, and that seeps in a little bit. So, the first 2 years that me and my group were in Phoenix, we won 87 games and finished 9th and 10th in the West and just missed the playoffs. And at that point in the summer of 2015, we made a conscious decision to aggressively go after LaMarcus Aldridge. And if we got him, we thought we'd go up, toward the top of the league. And if not, we knew the risk as far as going down. So we're aggressively looking to improve our team in multiple avenues after basically, sitting out the last couple free agent periods. We're one of about 5 or 6 teams. Bobby probably know the exact number better than I would, with $15 to $20 million or more in salary cap space, in addition to the picks we mentioned and some young talent on our roster.
You mentioned maybe having a willingness to trade that #1 overall pick for a veteran player. Is that going to have to be a high-level all-star? Like, what would your criteria be for moving it?
Yeah, I think there's only a handful of players in the league we would consider trading the #1 pick for. And so for us, it would have to be a proven star, but probably a young proven star, and a guy with multiple years of contractual control. as you guys know, we have the ability to potentially be a salary cap space team again in 2019. So it would have to be a multi-year player that fit well with the guys Bobby mentioned, with Devin Booker and Josh Jackson and T.J. Warren, and that we had control of for multiple years. So the list obviously dwindles pretty quickly when you have all those different criteria. But there are a few players league-wide, obviously can't mention them by name, that if they called us, that team called us, or we called them, I think both sides would have to think about that. So over the next month, we're going to explore those scenarios as well.
Here at the NBA Draft Combine, we are sitting with Ryan McDonough, the GM of the Phoenix Suns. And coming your way this weekend, the Celtics, they lead the series 2-0, but Saturday on ESPN, we'll have Game 3 of the Eastern Conference Finals for you from Quicken Loans Arena. It starts at 8:30 Eastern, but our coverage will tip at 7:30 p.m. with NBA Countdown. Both will be streaming live on the ESPN app, so you can certainly watch it anywhere. And Ryan, let's talk about the finals for you guys, the Western playoff, or the finals for you to get in there eventually, right? That is the goal. How far away are you think, from playing in the Western Finals?
Well, record-wise, we have a long way to go, and we have a young roster. But I've seen it flip quickly. Maria, I was part of the group with Danny Ainge in Boston that I played a small role in the trades to acquire Kevin Garnett and Ray Allen to join Paul Pierce and Rajon Rondo, and that Celtics team, I believe, won 24 games a year before and had the second worst record in the league. The next year, we won 66 games in an NBA championship. So that's unusual and unprecedented. You're saying there's a chance, yeah. So I think for us, it's probably more of a slower build with a big jump next year, and then hopefully sustained success given the age of our roster and the young talent on the roster.